Okay, I think we've got everything recording, so I will kick off and welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining on our webinar today, this afternoon. If you're joining us from Australia or New Zealand, for anybody else that might be joining us from anywhere in the world, welcome, good morning, good evening. Thank you for giving us your time today. My name is Rhiannon Boyd, and I've been collaborating on ACT's behalf with Taiao from the SDSN Australia Pacific New Zealand group to bring you the Accelerating SDGs in Practice series. So we're really delighted to be offering you a webinar today to talk through some amazing best practice in terms of the SDGs, and really looking forward to seeing some presentations and hopefully having some fantastic Q&A at the end of the session. So I'll be here to monitor your questions as we go along. If you have any issues, technical issues whatsoever, please do hit me up in the chat. We've got a lot of people registering to the webinar today, so if we do go over capacity, there will be the opportunity to watch the session on live stream on YouTube. I believe Zoom will link you to the live stream link, hopefully. If it doesn't, you can always email me on rboyd@acts.asn.au. I'll be monitoring my emails throughout the session as well. I think that was all I needed to say in the first instance, so I won't delay any longer, and I'll pass over to Taiao, who's going to be doing the formal introductions for the session today. So thank you, Taiao.
Thanks very much, Rhi. And hello to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about today's webinar, and as Rhi said, to share some really exciting examples of what universities are doing on SDGs in our region. But first, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on whose lands we gather on today, wherever we are in the world. For me, these are the people of the Kulin Nations, and I wish to pay my respects to the elders past and present. So in today's webinar, I'm really excited to hear from two leading universities in our region, the University of Auckland and RMIT University, on how they've been using the SDGs as a tool for accelerating action on sustainability and sustainable development in the institutions. In the past couple of years, there's been a real explosion of universities around the world starting to engage with the SDGs. And this has been really fantastic to see because both SDSN, Australia, New Zealand and Pacific, and ACTS have been working for quite a few years now to promote the incredibly important role universities have in achieving the SDGs. What is unique about what Auckland and RMIT universities are doing, and why we really wanted to share their work with you today, is that they've both taken a whole of institution approach to engaging with the SDGs, and they've been doing it for quite a number of years now. So they've both tried and tested a whole range of activities, such as how to incorporate SDGs into governance, central coordination, engaging with different university stakeholders, SDG mapping and reporting, that other universities can be inspired by and learn from. And not just universities. The SDGs can be used as a tool for action and change in other kinds of organisations, including governments and businesses. And we really believe that they too can learn from what universities are doing. So without further ado, let me introduce today's speakers, both of whom I've had the privilege to work with for a number of years. And both have helped lead the institution's SDGs activities and have really put an enormous amount of thought and study into how and why the SDGs are useful. So first up will be Dr Lesley Stone, who's the Manager of Sustainability and Environment at the University of Auckland. And after that, she'll be followed by Dr Renzo Mori Jr, who's a Senior Advisor for Sustainable Development at RMIT University. After the presentations, I'll have a bit of a conversation with both of them to explore some of the work that they've done in a bit more detail, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So I'm going to pass it on now to Lesley, and we'll meet you on the other side. Go for it, Lesley.
Thanks, Taiao. That's lovely. I'll just get this up and going. Right, so kia ora koutou everyone. I'm coming to you from New Zealand. It's not quite snowing, but it's chilly enough. So I'm going to talk to you today just about what we've done to use the SDGs to accelerate sustainability within the university. I guess it's an interesting time, and we all feel for you in going through a kind of second wave. In Australia, we've been very lucky to not have that yet, but we do get many escape. We have had a few escapees from our quarantines at the border, and so obviously, who knows? But to come back to the state of the planet. It could be something that we might have forgotten for a little while. A lot of people might have, but obviously still issues we have to deal with, and so let's keep going. So I've followed Taiao's request here in terms of the basic things that we want to incorporate in this presentation. But I'm going to start with something a little bit off the scale, which is our basic approach to organisational change and learning. And so I thought it'd be useful just to let you know where what we're doing with SDGs fits into the context. Okay. So I guess the question for us is what is meaningful and enduring organisational change? Where does it? How does it happen? And the SDG framework very much fits within the context of our organisational change. So the idea being it needs to be strategic, long-range, planned and sustained. It needs to be collaborative. Interventions need to be reflexive, analytical and self-skilling. So one needs to reflect on what one's achieving and why, and improve. And then it also needs to be informed by organisational change, theory and practice. And I guess the last few things is what that means is that its goals improve organisational effectiveness, and they also change organisational culture. So essentially we've looked at all of these issues in terms of framing our program on sustainability, and the SDGs have now become quite a big part of that. Another critical element is enhancing reflection and self-examination. So the framework for change that we use looks a little bit like this. Sorry, just excuse me for a moment. Sorry about that. I didn't realise there were people talking. Okay, so just to say, this is our framework for change. And essentially what a critical part of this organisational change process that we use is contextual. It's not like taking something from somewhere else and just plonking it on to the institution. It's actually looking at the context within which we operate and what is most likely therefore to resonate with our people. And the assessment we do initially is looking at our status and our trends, our achievements, our benchmarks, our perceptions, and also our priorities. Then customising a program accordingly, focusing on priority areas, conducting relevant analyses and assessments, actioning the outcomes and measuring results, and then communicating those results, and then doing the whole thing again. So that that's what we mean when we talk about an iterative learning process. And all the time what we're trying to do with this spiral is we're trying to build leadership, build support, enhance communication, and then extend involvement through the institution. So I can go into all of these in a lot of detail, but we're going to have to stick with these, just the basics. Happy to talk later or offline on about these. So what are the key initiatives and how they use these? How do we use this SDGs framework? Well, I've sort of framed that as getting started and keeping going. So when we started about 14 years ago, it was with our environmental policy with an initial focus on reducing resource use, wastes and emissions. It's been a very, very common trajectory for universities and possibly a common trajectory for other organisations as well. When we started with this contextual analysis, We spoke to 85 senior leaders, staff, and then student reps, so people who were either academic staff, professional staff, who had important roles to play, or who hung their practice and perhaps their academic practice or their operational practice off the concept of sustainability. And we asked them what they wanted us to prioritise, and these were the things they identified: leadership, support, communication, and involvement. They also, wait for it, identified key issues as rubbish, transport, buildings, equipment, energy, carbon emissions, paper and water. And that is in decreasing priority, so very different to the Aussies in the room. Water, generally falls from the sky continually here, so not such a big issue, although we are in the middle of a drought in Auckland, so, it's all relative. But that was the order of priority. So, you come into this work thinking, right, we're going to do sustainability, and then the first thing you have to do is throw your head into a bin. But research and teaching were just not even something that came out of that context as being important in terms of those 85 people. So we designed a program around this, and this is kind of looking at the kind of pretty much the classic approach, compliance and efficiency kind of being the first few things that we focus on in these sorts of have focused on in these sorts of programs, and then starting to look more at procurement, strategic proactivity, where a new strategic plan, and also signing up to international strategies, and then working through a bunch of other initiatives, that iterative learning process to build resonance, which is really important in terms of your people caring about what you're doing, to build pride and therefore also commitment more broadly across the university by including our core educational purpose. So the things that have come since then have all been to do with this, building resonance and building commitment, building culture within the university. And you can see a bunch of things. So first of all, binning our environmental policy, or recycling it somewhere else again, then turning into a broader sustainability policy that included teaching and research. So we did a lot of work here and a lot of iterative learning and changing and building commitment to the point where we were able to do these other things that extended beyond that. It doesn't mean the stuff down the bottom here stopped, but it meant that these other parts became important. We signed up to the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. I'll talk about why in a minute. We also developed research and teaching showcases, and a number of other things which I won't go into in detail. Some of you will know we've been #1 in the Times Higher Ed impact ranking for the last 2 years. We ran a big multi-sector summit report, and now we're actually in the process of a new sustainability strategy, carbon action plan, as well as a bunch of other action plans, and also a new strategic plan. So this is all part of this iterative learning process. Now, if we look at governance structure, I'm going to actually change that to maturity in the role of values-based change management, because there is no one structure and there is no one true way here. When you're working in terms of values-based change and learning, you're actually needing to think about your own context and what is going to be best for it. So some of the things that are important in terms of maturity are leadership and governance, engagement and partnerships, research and commercialisation, teaching and learning, operations and service provision, and ongoing improvement. And many of you will know about the LIFE framework, which basically includes various levels of maturity around these sorts of issues. And then also, they're actually, those categories are very similar, consistent to the ARSHI's STARS, the Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System. And as you know, these are used in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and North America. So that's one set. There's one sort of thing, one set of measures that we can use, but there's also something that's even more important. Now, often we start with policy. We say policy is the most important thing. But when we look at values-based change management, which is something that's been written about extensively by Elmer Whiteley, who's based in Perth and has been for a number of years, we talk about a hierarchy of elements. So we talk about vision, mission. So the vision is how we see the world we're in the future. The mission is our role within the context of achieving that vision. Then we also talk about strategy, structure, and systems as being the main drivers and navigational tools, the things that enable us to actually get from where we are to get where we need to be. And then there's only policy. So, and these things kind of flow down from the top. There's also at the bottom workplace practices. That could be academic practices, that could be, I'm not only talking about operations here within a university, but they're the things that the people who are doing the work that the organisation requires, how they practice. And then somewhere in the manual, you'll see a big space, is a very, very critical thing, which is management style. And management style often creates the break between, it's the filter between what's up the top and what's coming in from the bottom. And so you've all been in situations where you have people who are struggling to manage effectively, and that's where it comes in. So what we've done is we've got a matrix of these two things we've just developed, which basically has the measures of organisational maturity for sustainability, so leadership, governance, teaching, research, all of that on the top, and then it has vision. And we've actually populated this with all the things we need at this current stage, with all the learning we've done, everything that's gone on in the last 14 years, and we're in the process of developing a new strategic plan, and we want to feed this all into that plan. So just about benefits and impacts. Okay, I'm not going to change that one. So we'll just say, well, here are the things that have been very important for us. They were the reasons why we adopted the SDG framework, but they're also the benefits that we found. And the SDG framework has really been working well to ensure that these things happen. So potential for resonance, building culture, showcasing our work, international partnerships, awareness profile, community contributions, and their relevance at institutional, local, regional, and international levels. It also includes operations and services. A few SDGs are relevant there, and therefore it increases our potential for success. So internal and external factors absolutely are important, and a lot of them combine to this thing we call culture. And so I just quickly wanted to mention culture a little bit. It's that beating heart in the organisation, and it's around two things. It's around how people within an organisation work together, and it's also around how they respond to what's coming in from outside. And it's basically a set of underlying assumptions or values that a group has either found, invented, or learnt to help them to deal with these two issues, which is the challenge of working together and then responding to what comes in from outside. Again, whole lifetime's worth of work on these subjects. And sustainability reporting, that's all I can say about that. It's a huge challenge. We started our reporting in terms of the SDGs by looking at our research and teaching inventory. And here's a bit of a difference. You can see the differences in, this is quite a big one, not a lot of climate change research, but quite a lot of climate action research, but quite a lot of climate action teaching, and big differences with research for reduced inequalities and teaching. So a lot of those, and we looked at it for each one of the faculties. And just one or two more slides, I think I'm about done. But obviously now we've become much more detailed in terms of this, and we've got, if you go into our website, you'll see some stuff on the whole, a number of issues or things around the rankings that can be quite helpful as a learning process. There's also the university's first Sustainable Development Goals report up there, and then there's a bunch of other stuff including that showcasing research and teaching. So I'll get out of that. I think I can get out of that. Go back to my presentation. So just to, sorry, I'll just pull that back up again.
Sorry, just to let you know, Lesley.
Just about done. Yep,
we didn't see your screen, that's all. We only saw your presentation screen, so we might have to share that around.
Oh, okay, did you? Oh, okay, yes, so I've got my, I'll send you my presentation. You can have a look at it yourself. Okay, and then just basically as a summary, sustainability is a journey. People talk about transformational change, but even transformational change requires a designed approach and strategic approach to getting change to happen, and there generally are steps along the way. There's really no way of getting around it. We need ongoing improvement. We've got to have commitment to get ongoing improvement. To be committed, we have to internalise the values inherent in sustainability. And to internalise those values, we need an iterative journey of learning that involves recognising there's a problem, accepting responsibility for addressing it, and taking action to do so. And again, just bringing back these key issues, we found them to be critical. Leadership and support, they kind of go hand in hand. People want to lead, they want to be able to lead, they want to be shown to be leading, they want the leaders to lead, they want the institutionship to be showing leadership. Support, how support is provided for the work to be done, and communication, how it's all communicated as part of the culture, the fabric, building the fabric of the institution. And then involvement. We can't do this stuff on our own. Often we're very small teams and, you know, competing for resources in large organisations, and it's all about fundamentally extending involvement. So that's kind of me quick. Sorry, Marie, I might have gone a bit over time.
Thank you, Lesley.
Thank you, Lesley. We might have an opportunity to explore some of the things that you've done in a bit more detail afterwards, but we better move on to Renzo.
Hi, everyone. Let me see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thanks, Renzo. You just need to do presentation. There we go.
All right. So thank you, Taiao and Ree, for organizing this webinar. And it's great to have opportunity to share our experiences, work with the SDGs in universities. And my talk today, I will present a little bit, talk a little bit about the SDGs, RMIT SDGs project, try to focus a little bit on the governance component of the project, and finish with some of the learnings and challenges. So it starts, I just would like, before start talking about the SDGs, I would like just to provide a little bit of context. So RMIT has been working with sustainability for a while, as well as the Auckland University. So our first environment policy goes back to 1994. We have a sustainability committee and sustainability policy in place since 2009. We have been part of the Global Compact network since 2006. So sustainability is already part of our work. So RMIT has been doing work with the sustainability in the sustainability space for a long time, and we are now using the SDGs as our sustainability framework. And my next slide, it's I would like to take you just to a short journey.
Can I just interrupt very quickly? Can you put your slide into presentation mode? Sorry, we should have tested this bit before.
Yeah. Is it better?
I think that will work.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So so back to the journey, the SDGs journey. In 2017, we became signatories of the Sustainable Development Goals with the university commitments to the SDGs through SDSN. And back then, there were already a lot of SDGs work happening at the university in different parts of the universities. So in 2018 was exactly the time when we started working on the RMIT-wide SDGs project. I'll talk a little bit better about this project in the next slides. But something that we started since the beginning was to conduct a materiality test. This is basically try to assess the SDGs that are more relevant to your business. This is a common practice when you're developing sustainability strategies. So we did this in 2018 to see exactly what are the SDGs that we can add more value. We also these are just some of the activities that were happening, just to give an overview about our journey. So as I said before, there were a lot of work happening in different parts of the university, but there was no central hub to share what we're doing. For example, if you were one of our stakeholders and want to know basic information, for example, what RMIT pledged for the SDGs. So we didn't have that information in a central piece. And this is one of the goals of the SDGs website, to provide the central hub for our internal and external stakeholders to understand a little bit more about the work we are doing, try to increase awareness, foster collaboration, and also share the work that's happening. This is actually one of the biggest challenges that we have as a big university. It's really hard to see and understand exactly what's happening throughout the university. And when we're talking about the university and the SDGs, there are the big four areas that we are talking about. So the first one is research. We are also talking about learning, teaching. We're talking about governance and operations, and we're also talking about leadership engagement. So it's really challenging to understand everything that's happening under this one umbrella. In 2018, we also started doing our mapping exercise. We started doing our research mapping. And in 2018 as well, we started embedding SDGs throughout our sustainability report. This is one of the strategies. We want to have high levels of accountability in relation to our SDGs work. And RMIT has been publishing sustainability reports since 2015. So we decided that let's try to use the official communication channels that we already have, which is our sustainability report, and try to embed SDGs in our sustainability report. So for example, research impact is one of the material topics that that as a result of the materiality test, research impact is one of the material topics for us. So we have a specific section in our sustainability report trying to address the research impact component. And the number of research projects that we have addressing each one of the SDGs at the target level is one of it's an example of the information we're providing in the high level of accountability we are trying to achieve. So in 2017, something very important happened was the VC endorsement and commitment to the SDGs project and SDGs action plan. As a result of this action plan, we have created what we call SDGs workshop. We have created a SDGs working group that I'll provide more details again in the next slide. But also we had the opportunity to run a SDGs workshop. That workshop happened in the end of last year, and we had 53 people from different parts of the university representing all three colleges and academic and professional staff. And that was a great opportunity to first talk about the work that's happening, talking about the commitments the RMIT has in relation to the SDGs agenda, but also was a great opportunity to understand the perception of our internal stakeholders, our staff. So we had opportunity to have, that was like one morning workshop, and part of the workshop we have a small working groups discussions where people had opportunity to actually talking about aspects, for example, what RMIT is doing right in relation to the SDGs, where are the gaps, what should be the actions that we should take. And the information that we had during the workshop, we are using this information to prepare our action plan. And again, we have a specific action plan for each one of the four areas I mentioned before. Another aspect, in 2018, we also updated our sustainability policy to reflect our commitments to the SDGs. In 2020, something that's happening. So as I said, we are preparing a specific SDGs strategy that has specific action plans. We have our materiality test reviewed. This is a process that RMIT has as part of its sustainability strategy. Every 2 years, we review our materiality, and SDGs is now part of our materiality test. We are also working on SDGs metrics. We want to measure our contributions to the SDGs. So we are developing, we actually doing a lot of work in this specific topic right now. And again, it's involving both academic and professional staff, and involving representatives from the 4 areas I told you. In 2020, we also we finalized our mapping, publication mapping and curriculum mapping as well. So this is the RMIT-wide SDGs project. The project has 4 main areas. You can see the 4 areas here. Under each one of the 4 areas, there is a set of actions happening. I'm not able to go through each one of the actions, but the main goal of the project, the main goals of the project you can see here, is the first one is to increase awareness. As you know, there are a lot of people working with the SDGs, and they are aware of the SDGs, but there is a huge number of people working with SDG topics, doing amazing contributions to the SDGs on the ground, and they never heard about the SDGs. So this is part of our work to engage and increase the awareness around the SDGs. It's also important to map our capabilities, understand where our capabilities are, support collaboration, and support SDGs initiatives throughout the university, maximize our positive impact, and be accountable about our contributions to the SDGs. This is, in a nutshell, the RMIT-wide SDGs project that we started in 2018. And now I'll just provide a little bit of more details on the governance aspect of it. So as I said, RMIT has a sustainability committee since 2009. The sustainability committee reports to the VCE, and is the highest governing body at the university. And the sustainability committee is responsible to promote and coordinate sustainability activities across the university. So the RMIT-wide project sits under the sustainability committee. I'm a part of the team implementing the project, so I respond to the sustainability committee. And as a result of the VC commitment that we have in the end of last year, we decided that it would be important to expand the sustainability committee. And we have now representatives for all colleges, representatives from the main departments of the university, and again, including academic and professional staff. And the Sustainability Committee now is the entity responsible to create this common narrative to the SDGs. We also have created the SDGs working group. The SDGs working group is, although it's called working group, it's basically a steering and planning committee. So we have 16 members from different parts of the university, again, helping us to drive the SDGs project. For example, discussing priorities and implementing actions to promote and coordinate SDGs activities across the university. Still on the governance side, as I said, we have VC commitment to the SDGs. And here you can see some of our endorsements and commitments. This is actually what we are doing at the moment. We are incorporating SDGs into our strategy. We are embedding SDGs into relevant process, policies, and practice, again, throughout the university. The idea to use the SDGs is, the SDGs provide us a lot of benefits as a sustainability framework. For example, you can link your strategies with a global sustainable development agenda. Something that we also very interesting, and this is something that we have been working very hard, is we want to provide a high level of accountability in relation to our contributions to the SDGs. An example you can see here, this is extracted from our last sustainability report. And something that we have been trying to do a lot is we're trying to link our contributions at least at the target level. Because as you know, SDGs is such a broad agenda that if you look at the goals level only, you can actually link everything with a SDG. So we also believe that's important to have high levels of accountability, and we have been trying to implement this approach in everything we do. And to conclude, those are the main key learnings and some of the challenges. So we have been employing what we call a mixed approach. So we have the top-down and bottom-up happening at the same time. As you saw before, we have a VC commitment, we have the high-level commitment to the SDGs agenda, but it's also important to do work on the ground, to engage with people already doing work on the SDGs in different parts of the universities, try to engage with academics and professional staff from different parts of the universities, and try to make them aware about our contributions, to make them aware about our commitments, to make them aware and engage with the SDGs work we are doing. Something very important as well, and I mentioned before, is the use of the SDGs as a framework. It's a kind of a process, an ongoing process. It's a process that evolves. So you have a first stage where you just talking about it, you're trying to increase awareness. Then you have actually engagement. You have people engaging in the work you're doing, engaging SDGs and linking SDGs in the work they are doing. You have contributions. And finally, you can have, you can report and be accountable about those contributions. And that's a process, that's an ongoing process. It's a kind of management system. It's a circular process. And once you finish in the reporting and accountability, you go back and you review everything that's happening and you go to the same process again. And in the SDGs, it's also a very important instrument for organizational change. And this is something that we have been working very hard as well. So it's not about using the SDGs as a new packaging for the work you're already doing or you have been doing for a while. The SDGs are here to actually make us think in a different way, to see if, is there anything that I can do in a different way, rather than just keep doing the same work with a new packaging. And it's about also supporting organization, provide a supportive organizational environment. If you really want to have people working with the SDGs and contributing to the SDGs, you have to provide the right environment for these people to work with the SDGs. And that includes resources, that includes planning, that includes management, that's including incorporate SDGs in procedures and policies, for example. Another learning, it's in relation to the mapping. So I think the mapping is not a box ticking exercise. The mapping, if you're talking about research or curriculum or publications, that should be, you have to ask yourself why you need a mapping. Is that for accountability? You want to make better reports, so you have to work to have good information. If it's about management strategic exercise, so you have to have a different approach. We have been using the mapping exercise for both, for mapping, to disclose our contributions to the SDGs, but also for decision-making process and for strategic decisions.
Renzo, I'll just jump in and get you to wrap up if that's okay. We're just running low on time.
Cool, yeah. So it's just to finalize the three challenges. Effective communication and engagement strategy. Different stakeholders have different perceptions, different concerns. So there is not only one way to engage with everyone and communicate properly. So we have different approaches and we are evolving as we go as well. Translating the SDGs to university world is not an easy task. As you know, SDGs, there are a lot of targets and indicators that were designed for governments. So it's a bit challenging sometimes to translate the SDGs to the university world. And it's important for us to keep engaging and influencing our stakeholders to better address global challenges. So sorry, I advanced a little bit, but I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renzo. And we'll get Lesley to join now.
Yeah, I'm here. So I'm sorry, I'm in a room that I can't get a video access, so it'll have to be voiced over. Yeah, sorry, that's my fault. I didn't even think it through. So, but I can hear you and I can see you, so hopefully that'll help.
Okay, thanks, Lesley. So I'm going to ask our presenters Now, Renzo, come back. A couple of questions to start the discussion off, and I invite the other participants to now submit any questions that you want to ask either Lesley or Renzo through the Q&A function. So Lesley, I wanted to start with you and maybe get you to tell us a bit more what you could do with the SDGs that you couldn't do with your sustainability, like a straight sustainability hat on, and maybe just really briefly describe some of the activities that you use the SDGs with in the university, including, you know, how you interacted with staff and students and some of your external stakeholders.
Yes, I can do that. So, the first issue is that we essentially chose to use the SDGs because of resonance. What we weren't able to do before is really get widespread resonance across the sustainability program, because people generally have the perception that sustainability is only about the environment. And of course that gets exacerbated when you start these programs focusing on environmental performance. And while that is still an absolutely really important and critical issue, it really helps, it doesn't necessarily, you know, light up everybody. As a university, we have people who value and therefore teach and research in a whole bunch of things. And the SDGs basically provided us with this incredible opportunity to build that resonance. So instead of people thinking, well, sustainability is really not about me, and I guess medicine is one example, it's only one, but you know, the SDGs include, there is an SDG that is relevant to every single thing we do here. And so that just means more people are feel like this is about them, and people are more likely to contribute to an institutional program and be part of the, you know, the leadership and the support and the communication and the involvement if they think it speaks to them. And the SDGs do that, and no other real framework we've come across has done that. So all those things I listed and went through very quickly on my slide with the SDGs below it, all those things were the reasons we chose the SDGs, because we thought they would improve resonance and therefore build commitment across the university. And they've done that. They've really done that. You know, I'll get deans bumping into me and saying, wow, it's fabulous that, you know, our work is being showcased this way. So it's really made a difference. Obviously, we want to make a difference as well, you know, so it's not just about how our people feel, but it's also about making them feel like what they care about is valued.
And how did you actually get other people to care about the SDGs in the university?
Well, I think the first thing we did was we did that teaching and research inventory, and we developed a showcase. So we got thousands of people who were either teaching or mostly researching one or more SDGs. And so we did that. We did that with mapping. We tried a few different methods. The keyword approach did not work for us. We found way too many false positives. And I think we're seeing that even now, you know, like Africa, poverty, basically one of the words is Africa. So you could be searching fashion in Africa and you'll still come up on that list. So, you know, it's, so anyway, we did that. We used a very, very laborious method. We're busy developing better methods at the moment. But basically we identified the people on that list whose research and or teaching was relevant to one or more SDGs. The more SDGs, the more important for us. And so we actually, more useful for us from a resonance perspective. And so we actually, we went and we developed a set of really high quality posters with aspirational text from the researchers. We talked to them about, you know, and so we did a roadshow, a couple of roadshows with that. We had a big sustainability week where important people came, and lots of people from the university came. And it was really a way of showing that everything we do is relevant in some way to the SDGs, and that there are people doing extraordinary stuff that's very, very aspirational. And it's really important with sustainability to have something that you can show you're already doing rather than starting from scratch. These issues are huge, these issues are huge, and they can be incredibly distressing, and they can be incredibly concerning in terms of our sense of hope for the future. But when you recognize that so many people are already working in these areas because they value and have valued for a long, long time. We've got academics who've been working on sustainability for 30 years who haven't been thinking of themselves as working on sustainability, but they're working on aspects, on one or more of the SDGs. So it just gives people a sense that they're valued. It gives people a sense that they're part of a community that's doing all sorts of fabulous things. And and so we've done that through the showcase, started it. And then, of course, we got entangled in the Times Higher Ed impact rankings. We also initiated, which is a great way to show, to see where you're not delivering and what you need to improve. I don't believe in reporting for reporting's sake in any way. But it's a good way to kind of, look at it in terms of the areas that you aren't able to measure or not measuring or not able to find easily. So that's helped. But I think we also, John Thwaites actually came to New Zealand, and our VC suggested in that meeting that maybe we should set up a Universities New Zealand working group on sustainability and SDGs, and that's become a very, very valuable thing. So all of the universities are part of that. It was agreed to by consensus with all the VCs in New Zealand, which is 8. And we use that as well. We use that. We run summits, the universities, and we've got our UNZ group is now, our Universities New Zealand group is now a kind of governance group for holding what we in New Zealand call kaupapa, which is like the sort of what we're trying to achieve with that series of summits that's rolling around the country. So the summits are great because they're multi-sector. They last one, you'll be able to see a report on ours, and also a great video that shows the cultural connectivity across the summit and the variation. We try and focus on diversity and amazing spread of social, environmental, community groups, as well as local tangata whenua, our Indigenous people, as well as our Pacifica people. I mean, I think we managed to do a really good job in that regard. So there's a report. You can go have a look at the report when you see that website. It's really pretty much www.auckland.ac.nz/sustainability. You'll find them. I don't know, is that enough? You saw the list.
Yes, thanks, Leslie. And we might have to
Yeah.
share the links separately, and there's been some questions about sharing both of your emails. So if you're objecting to that, let me know.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Now, we've had quite a few questions, and I'm actually going to change what we were planning a little bit. So I'm going to spring something on Renzo. There's been a few questions around reporting, and including one around how we make sure that reporting doesn't become a greenwashing, or what's known as rainbow washing in the SDG world exercise, and also a little bit about the mapping and how you do it and what it's useful for. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about your thoughts on this.
Can I have a go?
Go for it.
So I agree 100%. Sustainability reporting, it's a very good instrument to demonstrate and communicate sustainability performance, but also it's there is a tiny line difference between being accountable and using information as a marketing instrument. And I think there are a couple of frameworks that could be used to increase the quality of your sustainability reporting. But I think, in short, the message is you should be transparent about the work and the information you're providing. It's not about making numbers just for the sake of having numbers in the report. It's not just shacking a lot of information in a document. I think it's important to have a thinking before reporting. So, for example, in I said about the materiality test. This is something very, very common when you're preparing a sustainability report. You can conduct some sort of materiality test to actually understand the topics that are relevant to your business. rather than just include a lot of information in a report that is not relevant to your business. So this is one of the aspects that I think it's really, really important to have if you're planning to start reporting on your work. If I can just mention about the ranking, the Times ranking, I think definitely the ranking is playing an important role in the sustainability reporting for universities. I think there is 2 ways to see it. Let's be positive first. I agree with Lesley. The ranking system is something that's helped us to actually understand where the gaps are, where we can improve our performance. It's good to bring attention to the Sustainable Development Agenda. There are a lot of people talking about the SDGs now because of the ranking. So we have to recognize, increase awareness, but also there are some aspects that we have to think of. For example, the reporting process. Because the ranking has specific metrics and the ranking consider evidence, you get an extra point if you have a public evidence. What we have been seeing some situations are just some reports, organizations just checking information in a report just to tick a box for one of the metrics on the ranking. And if you think, we are all sustainability professionals. We are all working with SDGs. So I think we have to actually embrace the SDGs and do the proper work. And we have to give an examples. And not say that RMIT does everything perfect, but we have to try to do. And another aspect that I think it's really, really important is we talking as a society, as a consumers, we have to actually pressure organizations to do the right work. So we all universities, they all have communication channels. Most of them, they have sustainability reports. So if you see something that you don't agree or you believe should be done in a better way, speak up, send an email, because the email you guys send actually help us to do the work. Yeah, sorry, we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but just to give some ideas about the sustainability reporting, SDGs, and how the ranking is playing this role.
Thank you. And I think a few people were asking about mapping, but I actually have a follow-up question around reporting, which might be a bit more challenging for both of you, is around how do we measure that universities are doing better on the SDGs? What is that? What does that mean? Does anyone want to have a go at that first?
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Renzo. Yeah, just I think things like the Times Higher Ed impact are good to be able to identify in a way that is sort of measurable, if you like, and for which evidence can be provided. But that doesn't mean we're doing it all, and it doesn't mean we don't have a huge amount of stuff to do. I mean, it's a ranking system. It is what it is. It requires a certain amount of evidence, and that's it. The thing is for us, and I think this is really important, and possibly one of the challenges, you could see it as a tick box exercise, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying that I think reporting has to be for management purposes. It can, for managing and improving and creating ongoing change and resonance and all those things I talked about. If it is only seen by leadership as a tick box exercise, well, then that's all it will be. So our role is to say, and we've put in the submissions have been put in by our Planning and Information Office. We've contributed, as have many other people, but we've also looked at them and we've evaluated what was there, what was missing, what are the gaps, what do we still need to work on. So it's just really important to recognize none of these things on their own create change. They only create change if they're being used as drivers for change, and that the effectiveness of that is actually being measured and considered and taken into account when developing institutional mechanisms. We're in a lucky opportunity. We've got an opportunity right now because we have a new VC, and we're going to have a new strategic plan. So it's critical for us to get this kind of suite of integrated mechanisms in place that can help to address the things that we need to, we do need to address. There's still heaps. I mean, this this job is not finished. This job will possibly never be finished. You know, and that's why it's so important to recognize it is a long game, and it's a game, you know, and the game's the wrong word. It isn't a game at all. It's deadly serious, you know, but it's a long story and it's a long haul, and it needs to be done strategically and effectively and continue.
Thanks, Lesley. Renzo, do you want to very quickly add anything to that before we ask you?
I totally agree. This is a process. It's an ongoing process. This is it's a new thing. SDGs, for how many years we have SDGs, actually, this global agenda with targets and goals and indicators. So it's something new for everyone. And just like a quick insight from some of there is actually a research project that RMIT has done on the SDGs reporting with listed companies in Australia. And it was very interesting because there were different aspects that were assessed. So you see, one of the findings is that there are a lot of public commitments, but when you go to actually measuring and reporting contributions, there is just a small number of companies with this level of information. And we understand, you know, it's not easy to start measuring impact. You understand that, you know, you need resource, you need time to do it. It's not something, yeah, let's do it. We have something, we start measuring properly our contributions to the SDGs, which is a huge agenda. But also it's important for us to have this strategic thinking and this rationale behind it to see, yeah, we have public commitments. For example, the SDGSN. We have like all universities that signed for the SDGSN, SDGs commitment. That is one specific aspect that says that we have to be accountable about contributions. So we have to start fostering more this discussion, and we have to advance definitely the way we measure and we communicate our results.
All right, I'm just checking with Ree whether we have time for a little bit more, or should we wrap up now, given that we're almost finished? I mean, this is a huge topic, and I think we could probably go into a lot more detail on a lot of the different aspects of the initiatives that you've spoken about. I will ask you both one last, Ree, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say one super quick question, acknowledging we're just on an hour though. So if anybody has to drop out, that's fine, but we'll keep recording. The video will be available after the fact. So we can get one more in.
Okay. Well, I kind of want to wrap up by thinking, like, we've been thinking about universities, and universities are really quite unique institutions, but I'm curious to know what you think other sectors could learn from the kind of work universities are doing, and particularly because I feel like universities are embracing the SDGs as a tool for change in a much bigger way than business and governments, at least in our region, and other types of organisations. And I'm keen to hear what you think they could be doing or learning from the work that universities are doing, and we have to be extremely quick, so maybe a couple of points.
Do you want to go first, Renzo?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I think that is, I think one of the reasons universities are doing a lot of work in Australia, in New Zealand, and you can see in UK, Canada, US, it's because it's an important part of the economy. So it's, I think this is one of the big reasons we are trying to do the right thing. And sharing, I think, again, the SDGs actually are providing us the opportunity to think in a different way. And I might say there are a lot of sectors actually doing a lot of work that we can look as well. I think it's about sharing good experience, sharing what's working and what's not working. For example, the mapping exercise is a very good example. There are lots of different approaches to do it, and we have been learning with each other what's the best way to do it. How can you balance the amount of information you need to the research you have to invest to have good information? So I think it's about sharing. It's about learning what we have been doing, and yeah, it's I think it's about sharing and learning with each other's experience, actually.
Okay, Lesley, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't actually.
That's all right.
There were a few questions that I obviously haven't, could contribute to it. So will we have an opportunity to maybe do those and then they can be sent to people?
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a few more questions.
Yeah. Okay. Happy to type away at some stage.
I know. I feel like there's a lot more that we could have covered in this time, but we probably do need to wrap up. So I'm going to say thank you from me, and really love seeing your work, and thank you for sharing it. And I'll pass on to Ree to close us off.
Yeah, well, that's it from us. Thanks everybody for joining on the session today. Hope you've been able to take something valuable away from it. Obviously a lot of discussions to continue onwards, so we'll take note of all the questions that were submitted formally through the Q&A. I think both of our presenters were happy to share their emails around if you wanted to take on some of those discussions in a little bit more depth when we don't have less than an hour to work with. So that's it from us again. Look forward to seeing you on the next series session that we do, whether that's one of our closed forums or discussion forums or another webinar. We'll be back in the months to come. I hope everyone stays well and safe at the moment, and good afternoon. Thanks everyone.
Bye everyone.